Hi, I'm Josh. You're watching another episode of the Socratic Diuretic, and today we've got a very special guest. We've got Ivan Pavlanovic. Am I saying it right?
Almost. It's pretty difficult. I mean, it's Pavlakovic.
Pavlakovic. I was not even
Pavlakovic.
close, man.
Yeah, man. It's here in France. They can't pronounce it. I mean, it's not French. It's from Croatia. My
Ah,
father is from Croatia. It's ex-Yugoslavia, so it's
yeah.
different, like words and different. I mean, letters even. When you write it,
I'll
it's like
remember it now.
the
Pavlakovic.
exactly. Once you
Awesome.
say it once, it's all right. You have to get it through your system.
So for those of you that don't know, he's the frontman of this really badass French heavy metal band called Disconnected.
Foutez-moi ces putains de nez en l'air, le Luxembourg!
Yeah, I've had a chance that I knew about them through Ash, and they've got some really cool, heavy, very. I love the vocals, man. So brutal.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
It-
some of the higher screams, reminds me almost like black metal stuff.
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's a mix of lots of different stuff because we've got different influences in the band,
Hmm.
and I've been doing this for a long time now, as I'm older than my guys.
Yeah,
So we had the chance to experience a lot of different styles and stuff, and I like to do it in a versatile way. I like to use everything that I can do vocally because it's fun to me,
hmm,
and yeah, my masters, singing wise, my biggest inspirations are, for example, guys like Mike Patton. So
Ah,
he's a
okay. Faith
perfect
No More.
example
Yeah,
of doing
so many
very,
voices. Yeah.
yeah, so many voices. Yeah, I've heard that he was also doing some uh, dubbing voices for some films, but like for monsters and
Hmm.
stuff like that. I don't know if he has done something for Lord of the Rings or something like that.
Okay.
Like crazy voices of monsters in the lows and the highs, and I
Because
love the guy.
I've actually heard some of your cleaner vocals, and I do love you've got a very unique voice. It's got a lot more
Thanks,
like a
man.
low end to it, and that's to me very
Thanks.
interesting.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, for the style, I don't have the typical modern metal type of voice because most of the time, the guys singing in those bands, they are more like singing higher,
Hmm.
and they do harsh vocals and totally clean voices, when
Yes, yeah.
it's like uh,
The
with
compression in
no
it.
compression, or like a bit of kind of, I don't know, voices like someone like Joe Cocker, or stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very
Bit of a
clean,
grit, yeah.
clean. Yeah, very clean, and or very with a lot of saturation. And I
Yeah, I
like to
think
do, I have to do to the, I like to go, like a bit everywhere
mhm,
between the very clean and the very raw
yeah.
harsh vocals.
I think yeah, it's quite common in that modern metal. I'm personally not a huge fan of that real heavy grind mixed with very clean.
Mhm.
I do like something that's kind of a bit in between because it's a bit
Yeah,
jarring for me. I think bands like Bring Me the Horizon, guys like that, started doing that a lot.
yeah. Yeah, I'll say that in our music, it's modern metal, of course, but there is a lot of rock and roll inside as well,
Yeah.
because I'm more of a rock singer than a pure metal singer.
Hmm.
And like I told you, like I was born before the 80s, I'm
Hmm.
44, and
Okay.
my guys are 10 to 15 years younger than me. So we
Yeah.
don't have the same background and the same influences, and I've been listening to a lot of rock and roll. I've been listening to, like a mainly, Metallica, Pantera.
Hmm.
I'm a huge Pantera fan as well.
Yeah.
So there is that thing of, you know, a bit more rock and roll attitude instead of being very, you know, like very precise in a little
Mhm.
box. And I mean, it's good as well, but it's not my way of doing things, you know.
I like that. I think we were just talking about that before we started recording, where we talked about rock and roll, and I think, and this is my opinion, one thing that I did feel was very important in these videos that we do was to be able to speak really freely about it. You know, not everyone's gonna agree. Some of the earlier videos, some people have gotten upset with some of the comments I've made, but I think that was the point of rock and roll, really. Like, to me, rock and roll is all about it's not about sex and drugs, it's about honesty. And the reason why it appears to be about sex and drugs is because everyone's doing it. And
Yeah,
they're just talking about it, you know.
yeah, yeah. It seems like nowadays, you know, like everybody is very, very cautious in the way that they talk in interviews and everything, or even the questions, because, you know, with the social medias, so many stuff can be taken
Out
and
of
put
context. Yeah.
out of context, and in a way that it can pretty much damage your image or your band. And the image for a band is as important as the music nowadays.
Yeah.
So I think we are lacking, like you said, a lot of honesty, you know, in answers and stuff like that, because everybody's thinking like, oh well, should I really say what's on my mind, or
Yeah.
will I be more cautious and more mainstream? So, you know, I don't take any risks, and that's it. And they're still gonna listen to my music and to my interview. But at the end of the day, if you work like this, you end up saying exactly the same thing everywhere to
Yeah.
everybody, and it's kind of boring.
It's disingenuous, and you lose that originality as well. You know,
Yeah.
the same way if you censor music or lyrics.
Exactly.
But I think the main thing we wanted to talk about today. So recently, I get a musician in, and we pick a musician to talk about. And in your case, when you agreed to do the interview, the first guy I thought of is we have to talk about Mark Tremonti,
Yeah.
because you have such a different insight, you know, having actually toured with him before.
Exactly.
Maybe
Yeah.
could you tell us a bit about how that came about and what was it like touring with Mark?
So basically, what happened? Disconnected was founded back in 2012 by Adrian, the lead guitarist of the band. He's also the composer of the music, and I'm writing the lyrics and writing the melodies of my vocals. So he was struggling for years to find the right people to play his music. Basically, sometimes they were not technically good enough, or not, you know, like as passionate as he was, and ready to grind enough to go to a certain level and stuff like that. So basically, we got introduced to one another by the end of 2016. I started to work on the vocals on his tracks. So recorded the first album, White Colossus, and when we released it in March 2018, one of our main goal was to try and get on board of an European tour. So we started to check here and there some contacts, and obviously Adrian is a huge fan of Mark and Alter Bridge and his solo stuff, Tremonti. And I was pretty much into it as well. So we thought maybe we could try and get in touch with him in a way or another, and try to tour with that guy, because maybe our music and our band would be a good match to tour with him. So we met him at Hellfest in France in 2018. We were lucky enough to meet him. He was very, very nice, as he is always with everybody. And after that, he started to tell us that he was coming back in Europe for a headline tour by the fall of 2018, and we thought, well, that's our shot, you know. We have to try and get on board, you know.
Yep.
But how do you do that when you're just starting with a new band and you just have only one record under the belt and a few gigs in France? So we started by checking with his fan base if they could be interested with our music.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that they were really liking what we were doing. So those people would start to push for us on their networks and stuff and talk about us, saying, yeah, oh, we've discovered those guys from France, they're awesome, maybe it could be a good idea, we would like to have them on your tour and stuff like that, you know, like tagging him on Twitter, on Instagram, whatever. And so I got in touch with his manager, Tim Tournier, from the US, and he was very nice with us as well about that, and saying that, yeah, you know, it's not how it works normally, but you know, you reached out to us, and maybe we can try to figure something out. Started to negotiate on the conditions to get on board on the tour, and we got the gig, and basically that was it.
And this was supporting him throughout Europe?
Yeah, it was. We were the first opener. Then after us, there was a main support, a band named the Raven Age, an English band. And then Mark was the headliner with his band Tremonti, and we did 24 gigs throughout 17 countries in Europe. From the beginning of November 2018 until the 10th or 12th of December of the same year.
Wow, that's
that's
pretty awesome.
Crazy. Yeah,
to go from, I mean, even just to play at Hellfest, that would have been an amazing experience.
We were not playing at Hellfest. We were there to do some promotion for our first album, you know.
Yeah.
Because Hellfest is like the French Mecca for metal music, you know. When you're a French band and you play Hellfest, like we're gonna do next year in 2022.
Awesome.
We got booked on.
Yeah, I saw that. Congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, thanks, man. We are opening a main stage on the 24th of June 2022. Fingers crossed nothing is gonna go sideways before that.
It's like Wacken for Germany, isn't it, Hellfest?
Exactly, yeah. We should be at Wacken that year as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, basically we are doing Hellfest in 2022. We do Rockfest in Barcelona. We do Wacken in Germany, and another big festival in France called the Cabaret Vert with Slipknot.
Oh, wow.
So 2022 is going to be a busy summer for us, and we're going to have more festivals and stuff added, because now we've got an international booking agent, and we are working with the biggest independent promoter in France as well, and many others in Europe. So it starts to be very, very, you know, like professional for us, and you know, things are getting the right way for us.
It's I'm sure it must be a great feeling to get to that point.
Yeah, man. After a year and a half struggling at home, not being able to play together, it's such a relief, you know, but still a relief, but with you know, like something above our heads, like saying like, it's not sure.
Yeah.
So what can you do, you know?
Going back to Tremonti for a second, like I first knew about him from Creed, obviously, and that kind of came out, what was that, early 2000s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably around the same age as the guys in your band. I'm 35.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
they are around 30, 32.
Yeah, so Creed was really big at that time. It's funny, when they first came out, you know how the metal scene is, it's a bit there's a bit of tribalism going on. So because we were into the heavier Scandinavian death metal scene, so it almost wasn't cool to like Creed.
Yeah.
Right, and there used to be a lot of that kind of stuff, and it was only later years that I started to go back and, you know, re-listen to it. I personally think their first album, My Own Prison, is actually the better album, where they wrote a lot of amazing stuff. But, you know, when we were going to do this interview, I started thinking about it. And I wonder, do you think Tremonti kind of got passed over in the metal community a bit, where he's quite underrated for, you know, his contribution as a musician?
I think, I don't know. It's difficult to say that, because in a way I agree with you, because with the talent that he has as a songwriter, on top of being an amazing guitarist, but to me, his strongest point is definitely the songwriting, because you know, like being so consistent for so many years, there is not a lot of bands that can say that, you know, like maybe the Maidens, or you know, like some bands like that, but it's a bit the same stuff here in France. You know, in France we've got a tradition of very violent type of metal. You know, when it's a bit too melodic, it doesn't really cut it here. You know, for example, I'm taking a simple example in France. You know, like bands like Godsmack or Seven Dust or Creed, they never really toured in France. They don't really have an audience here, because it's not there is no really harsh vocals in there, and our tradition is more towards the death metal, black metal, and thrash, and more aggressive stuff. But I mean, in my opinion, you know, everybody knows Mark Tremonti, either you like it or not. Everybody has that respect for the guy, because he's been achieving so much, and you know, he's been selling probably more than 50 millions of records in his career to this day. So, you know, that's huge. You know,
it's impressive. I think how he, you know, not just with one outfit. You know, he brought Creed to such high levels of success, and then with Alter Bridge again, you know, kind of redefined what his sound was. And I think you can definitely hear the difference from Creed to Alter Bridge, how he's matured much more as a musician.
Oh yeah, especially with his skills of you know, like shredding. You know, he became more and more kind of a guitar hero. You know, but he's a guy that is always reinventing himself and always working. You know, that's what I noticed the most when we were on tour with him. He is constantly playing guitar and working on his craft all the time, you know. And I know back home, after he's been working a lot on his vocals as well, he's you know, he's got an amazing color of voice. I really like his voice. I would even say that according to my tastes, I prefer to listen to him singing than Miles Kennedy. You know, Miles Kennedy is a monster. He's got a crazy voice, crazy skills. He's a awesome musician as well, a very, very good guitarist as well. But I don't know, according to my tastes, I'm not too much into the singers that are singing very, very high. It's not really my cup of tea. It's just like that, just a question of taste. It's not, you know, like saying that he's less good or less talented, whatever. It's none
it's
of that.
Preference,
Exactly, it's a preference of tastes. But yeah, Mark has been evolving a lot, you know, like vocally lately, and you can you know, like you can testify of that when listening to his last single as well. He just released a new song, If Not You. Good, very good song, great vocals, and I can hear, you know, as a singer myself, that, you know, things are changing in his voice as well. And knowing the man, I know that he's been working his ass off on that, and when he's gonna be back on tour, he's gonna be so much stronger and stuff. And so yeah, it's he has that quality of always aiming higher, always working, never thinking, well, I'm done, I'm a rock star, I'm just gonna enjoy that and don't do a lot more, you know, like the
He
kind
still
of
works
Lars
just as hard,
Ulrich
yeah.
mentality, you know.
Right.
I'm there already.
And
He's
I
never.
think that's
Sorry.
quite rare sometimes. Yeah.
Mm,
It's easy, I guess, once you get to a certain level to kind of slack off.
yeah. Yeah, it is, and I think it's due also, you know, like it's due to his work ethic and you know, like his way of living as well. He's not the guy who's gonna, you know, like drink his ass off every evening and party every evening and stuff. He's very professional and serious about what he's doing. You know, he knows that the day after he's gonna have to sing an hour and a half, and he needs
Yep.
to protect his voice, and he's very professional about this. You know, like you said before, there was that myth of the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Yeah, it was fun. It was pretty cool to see Motley Crue and stuff like that, but sometimes the
Yeah.
show had to suffer about those kind of
Yeah.
behaviors backstage, because when you've been partying and drinking too much all night long and you have to do a gig the day after, then you can have problems, you know, like to sing and to play properly, you know.
I mean, if we're being really frank, I mean, if you have a look at Vince Neil's recent performances vocally, it's that's pretty much what happens if you just spend the last few decades partying.
Yeah. Yeah, or having Axl Rose looking like Benny Hill nowadays, when he was a sex symbol. No,
Yeah,
it's the truth. You know, he didn't lose you know, a lot. You know, from his voice, he's still a brilliant vocalist. You know, like he proved it when he was joining forces with AC/DC. I was really impressed with what he's done with that.
I think stamina-wise, he suffered a bit.
Yeah, but I mean, he's in his 50s, all right. But when you look at Duff or you look at Slash, those guys, they knew when to stop and when to start to work out, and to the Nicky Six, all those people, they were clever, thinking that I want to do that for the rest of my life. And when I'm looking at, for example, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry in Aerosmith, those guys are in their 70s, or Rob Halford, you know, look at how healthy they are, look at how strong they still sing on stage and perform. But if you want to do that in that late age, you have to be cautious, and you have to stop doing silly stuff, you know, like pretty early. And when you have a guy like Vince Neil, that, to be honest, didn't have such a talent as a vocalist at the beginning. He had the look, he had the moves. I mean, he was one of the sexiest men on the planet at that time as well. You know, so it was all very good.
He still thinks he is, I think.
Unfortunately, he must have those glasses, you know, like where it, you know, like reshape your physique when you look at your face in the mirror, you know.
I think a lot of you know, the average person who doesn't you know, they've never performed and all that, they don't realize how physically demanding it is, especially extreme metal, you know.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. It is very, very demanding. I mean, you know, like I'm always working out before touring or during the year, you know, because I am, you know, like 44. And next year, when I'm going to tour again Europe, hopefully I'm going to be 45. And the way I'm moving on stage, what I want to achieve being on stage as a performer, I need to train, you know. It can't happen like that at that age. You have to be focused and professional, and you do your cardio, feel well in your body, don't be too heavy for your height and stuff like that, to be able to deliver the best show you can.
That's
I mean,
something...
if it's your goal, you know, performing wise, if you want to sing, you know, like behind a mic stand and just not move, and you want to be fat, all right, that's good if it's the way you see things. But the way I'm seeing things on stage, I need to be in shape.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, I started really getting into working out at probably about, you know, 3-4 years ago. And just the difference. I physically feel better and can like do more now at 35 than I could at 25.
Yeah,
And it translates so much into your, like you said, your passion, your art. If you want to do this in the long run, yeah, you got to put the work
exactly.
in.
Yeah, exactly. And also as a guitarist, you guys having those guitars, on your back, like for
Mm.
hours and stuff like that. On the long run, it can cause, like troubles with your back and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
if you reinforce your back muscles and stuff like that, you're gonna have less pains, you're gonna be healthier, you're going to be stronger, you're going to damage less your body. For example, look at a guy, for example, like Matt Heffy from Trivium.
Yep.
You know, is still very young, but first of all, he's clever because he's got this double holder, for his guitars.
Hmm.
Instead of having just one
Strap.
one
Yeah.
normal one. Like to have the weights correctly balanced with his body, and he is constantly working as well. He's doing some
Hmm.
yoga, he's doing some jujitsu, he's lifting weights and stuff like that. Because you have to, when you do something like 150 or 200 shows a year,
Yep.
it's very, very demanding physically. So
I was
you need
quite
to be in shape.
surprised when I found out Nergal from Behemoth
Mm,
is actually really into yoga.
yeah, he is.
Yeah, and you'd never guess it, just from his on-stage persona.
Exactly. But it's always the same. When you have to deliver a certain violence, you
Mm.
need to have some inner peace as well. Because if you're constantly nourished by this kind of violence and aggressiveness and hatred that you have to deliver in that kind of music, you can't survive to that 24/7. You need to work on something else. And I do believe that being at peace for yourself, it can allow you to deliver more energy and more, I don't know, aggressiveness as well, without harming yourself too much psychologically and physically as well.
I like that. That's actually a very interesting perspective. Inner peace to deliver the violence, as you
Mm,
put it.
yeah, yeah. It's the, so we said the calm before the storm,
Right.
because if you're tense, very tense just before being on the show, an hour, 2 hour before, you are always already burning the energy that you were supposed
Hmm.
to deliver on stage, and if you're tensed all the time like that, at some point you're gonna break up, so you
Yep.
need to chill it, to be able to have your energy levels lower and breathe correctly and stuff like that. And so when it's the time to unleash, you can unleash, like full throttle.
Nice. So, okay, there was 2 points I think that we touched on before. I wanted to circle back around to. One of them is when we were talking about shredding.
Yeah.
So I'm probably a bit biased because even though I sing in my band, but I also play guitar.
Mm.
So I think see, when I was learning guitar when I was a kid, shredding wasn't a dirty word. It was something you kind of aspired to.
Yeah.
And like when you met other guitarists, you kind of go like, "Oh shit, this guy can shred," and that was how you defined who was good, And I guess if you try to summarize it, shredding is just playing technically fast, right?
Yeah.
But in recent years, I think shredding started to get a bit of a bad rep.
I don't know. It doesn't seem to be the case in France. We definitely worship like great musicians,
Mm-hmm.
but in my opinion, um, I'm always really interested about hooks and about what you remember of a song.
Mm-hmm.
It can be like drum wise or guitar wise. It can be vocally. But what I really like to have with an artist is when he's got his particular licks and you can recognize the guy and you can almost sing a solo, for example.
Yep.
So when you have some very shreddy parts, inside of a solo, it's interesting also, and it puts even like more under the light the melodic parts. But if it's just shredding,
Yeah.
like all the time, I'm less interested in that kind of playing. Look at, for example, I don't know if you take an example like Jason Baker, that virtuoso that had that big sickness, and I don't know, is he dead already or not? I don't remember.
I think he's still alive.
I think
last
yeah,
I
he's
looked
still
at
alive,
it, I think
but
so.
like he's
He's
tetraplegic,
pretty much in a
or,
coma, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and he can just write songs with
His
his
eyes,
eyes,
yeah.
like on a
That's
on a
insane,
computer
though,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah, but that guy could shred like hell, like he
Mhm.
was as good as the Marty Friedmans, the Steve Vai, the Joe Satriani at that time.
Yeah.
But he also had those very melodic licks that you can
Yeah.
still remember, on his songs. To me, that is the true magic of a musician and an artist, when you can have those little licks in between of all that huge technique that everybody will remember. Or a guitarist like Slash, he's more rock and roll guitarist, but he can also shred a bit, But when he's been creating all those solos in Don't Cry, whatever, so many great songs from the Guns N' Roses, or even his current material with Miles Kennedy,
Yeah.
it's
Very
Mark is the
memorable
same as well.
solos, yeah.
He can shred. He's a very good shredder, but he also has those very beautiful licks of melodies when he's repeating the melody of the vocals as well and stuff like that. The solo of a song like Dust, for example, it's magic. You can almost like remember it as a vocal line and sing along with it. So yeah, it's not. It was not trendy anymore in the 90s, when there was that big wave of
The grunge.
of the bands of the grunge, with the Nirvanas and all those bands, because it was a different period of time, and we switched from the 80s to this. But then after, like lots of bands are having, like people doing solos, even in the metalcore scene,
Yeah.
Killswitch Engage,
hmm
lots of bands like that,
Yeah, I think it's definitely making a comeback. But
Yeah.
yeah, I totally agree with you that it's not just, there's nothing wrong with the technique by itself, but it is that
No.
musicianship that comes with it, where you have to be able to have, like you said, memorable hooks in it too, good phrasing.
To me, as long as it serves the song, that's the most important. And I know that Mark was always saying that it's all about the song.
hmm
It's all about the song, because I mean, when you do bands like we do them, you want to go in a venue and have people able to sing along your choruses sometimes, or remember a hook, a certain part of some melodies, or a breakdown, and stuff like that. We're all looking for that, So it's all about, does this part serves the song or it doesn't, If it doesn't, well, with Disconnected, we will get rid of it, if it's useless
Yep.
to the song.
Cool. So, the other thing that you mentioned that was very interesting to me was when you told me that in France, that more extreme metal is more popular. Because I'll confess, like I don't know anything about what's popular in France,
Yeah.
and I had no idea that it was the heavier, more extreme metal that was popular.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people outside of France, it's like this with many countries. Like France is always presented in the more, it's always about Paris, right? So everything's always a bit, like it's upper class. It's maybe associate, that French gypsy style jazz with it.
Yeah.
But you don't think of the extreme metal. But in the same time, like I'm a big fan of a lot of the early Luc Besson films.
Yeah.
Things like Yakamashi and District 13, and
Le Grand Bleu as well. You
Yeah.
know it?
what's the English title?
don't know. Le Grand Bleu, maybe the Big Blue. I don't know. I don't know what's
I
the name
can't-
in English, basically.
Yeah.
You know, it's the story of that diver, Jacques Mayol. You've seen that film or not?
No, I don't think so.
Where the guy is doing those competitions of diving and he's swimming with the dolphins and stuff like that. It's based on a true story of one of the first very worldwide renowned diver, which was a French guy named Jacques Mayol. And I think his nickname was the Dolphin because he could, you know, like stay and swim underwater for like 6 to 7 minutes or something like that without breathing, you know.
Okay, well, I'll have to check
He
it
had
out.
that he had that capacity of lowering his heartbeats to something like 24 minutes or something like that, you know. It was like one heartbeat every 4 seconds or something like that, you know, something crazy, you know.
Yeah.
And he's been studied and stuff like that, and the film is all about that and a friendship between two divers, and you know, like but it's a very nice film, and it's great music as well from I don't remember his first name. It's Serra, Luc Serra. I don't remember.
Okay.
the entire name.
Well, the film that one of my favorite ones was, I think it's called District 13.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And that showed a very different side of France. That it's very different from the other films. It was showing like that grittier, you know, the more, I guess in Australia we call them like commission blocks, like government housing, tougher
Yeah.
life. And they had a lot of this really aggressive hip hop.
Maybe you don't know it, but the second market in the world for hip hop after the US is France.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's France, R&B and hip hop. They are number one above the pop music and stuff, selling wise, streaming wise in France. big
Even
time.
still today?
Yeah, today more than yesterday. It started back in the 80s when the thing in France is that we have a lot of immigrants from Africa, you know.
Yep.
And all those people who came to live in France and work in France back in after the Second World War, to rebuild France, because lots of people were dead and stuff like that, and also because we had one country in North Africa, Algeria, which was a French department, and then they went independent in the 50s, and so lots of people as well from Algeria that wanted to stay with France. They immigrate to France and didn't stay in Algeria. And all of those people, they were really into more soul and funk music and stuff like that. And so when hip hop started in the US, some of those people were influenced by that and bring it back to France, and it became a big phenomenon. I remember when I was in middle school in the 90s, you would have the hard rock lads and the metal guys with long hairs and stuff like that, and the hip hop guys, you know, with the funny Run DMC haircut and stuff like that. And first of all, it was a lot of graphing, you know, and a lot of dancing as well, smurfing and stuff like that. And then they all started to rap, but it became huge in France, you know, like hip hop is huge in France. Yeah, very big.
It's interesting because, like, I think this kind of more aggressive, you know, stuff coming through the music, it's not something that most people outside of France would generally associate with France, you know.
No, the image of France in the world is more, you know, Paris.
Yeah.
You know, like the
Everything is
Champs-Élysées.
love and
It's stuff like that, and the guy with his beret and the baguette under his arm riding a bike. you know.
And you're
But
telling
it's
me
more-
it's the reality, it's more of a more, you know, like a metalcore and like a hard hip hop sort of thing.
There is a bit of everything, but it's true that, for example, you know, when you think about Hellfest, you know, those guys, they started very, very little, 15, 16 years ago. It was a little festival with the 400 people attending, because the guy who created this festival was a hardcore music lover, you know. And then after it grew, and now it's one of the biggest festivals in Europe, if not in the world. You know, Hellfest is almost 200,000 people in 3 days.
Wow.
And when they open the ticket sales, it's sold out in 2 hours.
Yep.
You know, so and next year there's a huge edition, because they've been postponing the 15 years anniversary, which was supposed to occur in 2020. So you have 3 days of the festival, and then the week after you have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You got 4 days again of Hellfest, with headliners like Guns N' Roses, Metallica. You have Deftones, you have Korn, you have Avenged Sevenfold, you have everybody is there on 7 days. The biggest bill ever, something like 350 bands playing on 7 days. Crazy.
Yeah, I think Europe definitely has the rest of the world beat in terms of festivals these days.
Yeah. Wacken is huge as well. You've got Grass Pop as well in Belgium, which is huge. You've got the big festivals of Reading and the Download in UK as well.
Yeah.
Rockfest is pretty big. Rockfest and Resurrection Fest in Spain are pretty big as well. You've got Nova Rock in Austria, which is pretty big. You've got Alcatraz in Belgium as well. Shitloads of big festivals, you know.
It's funny, yeah. This chat started out talking about Mark Tremonti, but now we start talking about festivals. But that's how every episode goes. We start with something and we end up spending 5 minutes talking about it. It's really clickbait, the thumbnail.
But we can go back to Mark if you want.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think there's nothing really bad you can say about the guy.
No.
Yeah.
To be very, very honest with you, even if I wanted to, but I can't say anything bad about the guy, because, I mean, he's been so nice with us, man. I mean, on that first tour, you know, we were very welcomed, and I have to say that he really digged our stuff.
Yeah.
So, to give you just an example, on the third gig of the tour, he went on stage with one of our shirt on stage, you know.
Oh yeah,
as
wow,
if to
that's
say,
awesome. I saw that video clip actually.
Yeah, to sort of say, guys, I like your stuff. I want to give you some props, and you know, that was such a huge achievement. And by the end of the tour, as we've been hanging out many times on the tour and get along very well, this tour was fantastic. You know, with the guys of the Raven Age as well, we made friends. We are still talking to each other years later. They also invited us to open for them in Paris when they were back in France. And, you know, it's a great relationship and friends for life, you know. And before leaving the tour, Mark really wanted to keep in touch with us. So he gave us his personal phone number as well.
Yeah.
So that's a huge mark of trust as well. And since that day, every time we send a little text message to each other. I was texting him the other day to congratulate him on his new video and stuff, and he's always answering straight away. Thanks, guys. Say hello to the guys for me and stuff like that. It's such a genuine person, you know. It's very, very, very nice, very, very
Down
everything.
to earth,
you know, yeah, down to earth, big time. You know, with his fans as well. You see the way he's behaving. He's always smiling. He's always answering to everybody. He's very there for them. You know, he's a great example. He's definitely someone that we look up to. Definitely.
Well, if Mark does end up seeing this interview, he'll be very pleased to know.
I'm sure he will. But you know, to be honest with you, have you ever heard anything bad about the guy?
No, I mean,
the last 30 years.
Couldn't bring anything up. Yeah.
No, it's even if you want to try and look at,
Yeah,
like
it's
something that
rare.
could be
It's really rare to
fishy
have
or
someone
dodgy
like
about
that.
the guy, that there's nothing, he, he's
There's not
quite,
many of them that
no.
you can't say anything bad about.
But it's the case of many of the people that are surrounding him as well. He's got that talent of being surrounded by the right people. All his band main members as well, the great guys. His bassist, bass guitarist Tanner, such a nice dude, very talented guy as well. He's also a very good singer, a very good multi instrumentist. He's playing piano. He's great at guitar. He's got a blues um, solo career as well, and he's very, very good at what he's doing. The other guitarist that plays with him, Eric Friedman, great guy as well, great singer, great guitar player. His drummer as well, Ryan, very nice guy as well. Everybody was so cool, in his team. Very, very nice people. Yeah.
No,
And
that's really cool to hear.
not just the usual facade of being nice bullshit type of stuff. Yeah, man. And 2 days after, they don't talk to you anymore and shit like that. No, it's like very consistent people. Like they are like this one day, and throughout the whole journey, they stay the same. That's something that we really, really appreciate about those guys. Like being consistent and nice all the time, and you can see that it's the truth. It's not a facade. They are really like that.
I think that's great to hear. You don't get too many genuine stories like that about artists these days.
No, it can be difficult to tour with some bands sometimes. I didn't have much of an experience as a European tours with metal bands, but Adrian had done already 2 tours previous to that with another band. So he was opening, for example, for what's the name? Symphony X,
Yep.
for example. And it was not the same story with the technical conditions and stuff, the way that they were treated as a band, as an opening band. It wasn't that nice, like, to be honest with you, when we started on the Tremonti tour, we were expecting difficulties, and there were pretty much none. Like every gig we had plenty time to do our sound check and room on stage and whatsoever. It was perfect. Like we are a bit like concerned about the next tours, like thinking we've already been with top-notch people. What it's going to be like with the others, we'll see. We will adapt anyway. So
awesome. Well, look, I still want to keep talking to you, but I'll pause the video for this one for here.
Yeah. Cool, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this. It's been really
pleasure,
fun.
man.
I'd love to do it again. We'll pick something else to talk about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we can do a part 2, like in a couple of months or a bit later, when we will have done some tours. We are lucky enough to be able to play next month in a big festival as well in France. So we will play with bands such as Creator. There's Decapitated as well, and bands like that. So you see, it's again very aggressive type of music, or very, very metal. Like some old school thrash and some actual death metal and stuff like that. And in the middle of all that, there will be a Disconnected. So
nice.
Yeah, we'll manage to kick ass anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for your time. Hardly anybody ever watches these videos, but regardless, we'll put links to you guys, so that anyone who does want to check it out can keep up to date with what you guys are doing.
Sure, man. My pleasure. And I have to say a big thank you to all the people in Australia that are following us. We reached out to a lot of people, thanks to Ash.
Yep.
Robo about that. He's been very, very helpful with us about that, and it's you've got all of you seem to have a very great mentality and a way of like sharing good vibes that I really appreciate. So
Yeah, well, look forward to finally meeting when all this stuff blows over, and hopefully we get
Yeah,
to play a
man.
gig together sometime.
Definitely. I made a promise with Ash. We need to drink those beers by the sea, and it will have to taste snails with butter and garlic.
I love snails. Yeah,
Do you? All right. Snails and frogs' legs.
yeah,
The French specialities.
done.
Okay, man.
All right. See ya.
Cheers.